Hello there. Well, it's no secret that supply chain disruption has been a feature of UK manufacturing over the last few years. Brexit, the pandemic, the war in Ukraine. But I'm not sure anybody realised quite how bad it has become. I'm joined by Verity Davidge, Policy Director at Make UK. Verity, please give us the main findings of the report.
Yeah, so absolutely. So for decades, I think manufacturers have been using increased globalisation and supply chains to drive efficiencies and create lean manufacturing processes, which actually have helped them both grow and remain competitive. But what our research has found is actually the economic shocks of the past few years have created this perfect storm, which has actually turned those models upside down. Brexit and the pandemic have had the most severe impacts. So our survey found that 93% of manufacturers said that they had faced either major or catastrophic supply chain disruptions due to COVID, and around 80% said due to Brexit. But even if we ignore those two major issues, we also see access to raw materials causing quite significant disruption, and transport availability and costs. We were having times when manufacturers were citing doubling or trebling of shipping costs, and that's even if they could get hold of the container in the first place. What this has done is ultimately forced companies to reevaluate their business strategies and seek suppliers a lot closer to home. So our survey found that 2/5 of manufacturers have actually increased the number of suppliers in Great Britain, and we expect to see that trend again continue into the next 2 years. They're also increasing the number of suppliers to again spread that risk. So around a quarter of companies say they have around 51 to 100 suppliers, but other companies actually suggesting they have up to 200 or even more when they're really beginning to take mitigating actions to that supply chain disruption.
Some have said that actually what we're witnessing is the end of globalisation. Would you agree with that?
A little bit. I feel we are seeing the era of the peak of globalisation passing, if you will, and we are seeing companies taking what they are considering to be a far more safer approach, which is bringing their supplier base closer to home, and with those figures quite significant, in a way, who could blame them? We're even moving to a model where we are leaving behind, just in time, which we know well in manufacturing, to almost a just in case. I am going around companies, I'm still seeing stockpiling. We are seeing lead times of 6 to 12 months becoming the norm. I was at a business the other day, they said one of their key components was taking a 24-month lead time. So actually companies are beginning to take quite serious mitigating actions. We've also seen for the first time, I think in a long time, a real focus on advanced supply chain strategies. This is becoming a core part of a manufacturing business. They're also looking about how digital technologies can help manage those supply chains disruption. But because of the significance of this disruption, and we don't expect it to alleviate anytime soon, we do now need to work on government on this. So a couple of the calls that we are making in this report is to firstly create a cross-industry and government supply chain resilience task force to really pinpoint where those vulnerabilities are, to make an assessment of our domestic capabilities. What can we make ourselves now that we are beginning to see this move towards kind of onshoring and reshoring. And I think secondly, a real easy win for both businesses and government would be to take their Help to Grow scheme that they are very much advocating at the moment and to extend it to supply chain software management. Because what our findings have also found is that those companies that are adopting the approach of using digital technologies for their supply chain management have actually been better able to weather quite a significant supply chain disruption storm.
We're hearing anecdotes of companies who've outsourced over the years. They want to bring some of the manufacturing back, but they're discovering that they've actually forgotten how to do an awful lot of what they once took for granted. There's going to have to be a lot of relearning going on in this country in order to take advantage of the reshoring opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's back to that domestic capabilities point that we actually need to really assess whether we have those. And while it's a great ambition to, reshore and bring everything back to the UK, it's often easier said than done. If we were to fully bring all production back, we would need to make sure we have the skills base, which we know is an absolute, significant challenge, our Achilles heel for manufacturing. And we need to also make sure that we have a competitive business environment. We have seen great things from the government recently in the form of the super deduction, the annual investment allowance. But if you are going to make that long-term move to bring production back and ultimately reshore, we're going to need those long-term initiatives that we've been calling for some time.
Well, clearly, Verity, difficult times for UK manufacturers, but there are plenty of opportunities there as well, I think.
Yes, I think definite opportunities. We know we have faced very challenging years, but I think now we are looking towards the future. We are seeing how we actually can continue to kind of grow and create a competitive base of UK manufacturing. We are beginning to see the right noises from government in terms of putting manufacturing at heart of their levelling up agenda, and I think that what we want to do is take the positive aspects of our findings from today's report and really build on them and just showcase what we can do and what we can make here in the UK when it comes to manufacturing.
Well, let's hope all that optimism bears fruit. Verity, thank you very much indeed for being with us. This has been a special report from Manufacturing TV. I'm Nick Peters.